And when you talked before about the fear, I just have this feeling like there's this kind of pendulum. And so I'm wondering if there is this historic precedent that we're in right now where this pendulum is just over here, so it doesn't matter what any facts are. That's all we're worried about, you know, whether it was the Irish back in the day or whomever was the current immigrant population at the time that we didn't want in this country, if you could address that historically.
You are so right in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm not pessimistic to say it can't be changed, but I do agree that it is a pendulum, and it has been a pendulum since we were founded. The first one was in the 1880s, the Chinese Exclusion Act. So we had the Chinese come over and build the Western railroads, mostly men. Did a great job building the railroads, but once the railroads are done, they're competing with U.S. workforce. They don't do things like we do. We don't like them. We decide no more Chinese. And that just happened. Then around the turn of the century was the next one. We had the last big wave of immigration, and I'm sure many of us here, our relatives came at that time. Like you said, the Irish came, I think, a little earlier, but anyway, Irish, and then a lot of Eastern Europeans, Italians, that kind of thing. And it was a big change. It was a lot of people. Percentage-wise, it's about what we're seeing now, maybe a little bit more even percentage-wise of the U.S. population. So there was a lot of change happening, and in that situation, this is obviously a simplification, okay, of many, many things. But the primary thing that we didn't like then was that the immigrants were Catholic. And that was a big change. And so if you go back and read the literature from that time, which is pretty much when the Klan started, was during that time, because of the Catholics, you read that stuff, you could just fast forward 100 years, you're reading the same stuff. Basically. So that, was a pendulum. The way that they, what they did was pass, there wasn't really much legislation, except for Chinese. There wasn't a lot of restrictions, so then they passed restrictions. They didn't totally cut it off, but they passed restrictions, and they basically said, whatever percentage of the U.S. population your country is in this year, if so many people from England, so many people from Ireland, so many people from Italy, that's the percentage who can immigrate in the future. And that's your quota. So obviously lots more, English people could come in than Italians, and so the immigration of certain groups just dropped off precipitously. And the sort of unauthorized immigration wasn't nearly the problem that it was now because of transportation, And so, but there was, it's just, not as much. So that certainly happened. And that was really the last big one. Because if you look at that, right after that then, we have the World Wars. You have the Depression, and you don't have the economic prosperity that we've experienced in the last 20-some years. And we didn't have also, the other factor is education. Our native population is much more educated. In 1960, half the men in 1960 dropped out of high school to take manual labor jobs. Half. Now it's 15%. So we're so much more highly educated. But the jobs we're creating, like I said in the beginning, are low-skill jobs. So where do those people come from? And then you've also got all the international factors that are driving people from their homeland because of, in some cases, things we've done, but sometimes not. I won't take the blame for everything, but, sometimes things we've done, like trade policies or corn subsidies or whatever, and, then we're driving them out of their homes. So all these factors have combined to make this really, this situation right now. And you're right, it's a big cultural thing. But I would say, I talk to a lot of people, and there's a lot of people who care about fixing it and making it better, and for our own good as America. We better think about it, because someone mentioned Social Security over here. Well, I should have put this slide in, I forgot. But if you look at the demographics of the whole situation, Social Security was built on the idea there'd be lots more workers than there are retired people. Something like 20 to 1. I could be wrong on that, but somewhere right around there. Now it's 4 to 1, and it's not getting any better. Okay? So you can't support 1 to 1. That's not going to happen. So we have to do something. And so just for that reason alone, many other reasons too, like entrepreneurial drive of immigrants and the innovative, innovation we've experienced over the last 20 years from some of the immigrants who have come in certain, a lot, like about half of our Silicon Valley companies were founded by immigrants. There's lots and lots of reasons that it needs to be fixed. But you're right, we're on a pendulum where we're on the wrong side of the argument in that regard. So that's why we have to work harder.